Well, let's see what the old advent calendar says. It's the second, so open two. If you want a little horror in your holidays, check out the advent calendar, now streaming on Shudder. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch Our Past. I've got my advent calendar. This is not as elaborate as the one in the movie, but I'm here to talk to you about the advent calendar, which is streaming on Shudder. It is a French horror Christmas film. Horror is good for any season, and hey, you know what? It's the holidays, so now we got some Christmas horror as well. I'm going to talk to you about the film, some things I liked, some things I didn't like. There will ultimately be discussion about the ending because that falls into one of those categories, things I liked or things I didn't like. So there will be spoilers. If you don't want to know what happens in this film, if you don't want to know some of the twists, and there's a pretty good twist at the end, then turn this off. Go check it out on Shudder. It's streaming on Shudder December 2nd, 2021. So today, so it's available now. And then come back because there is an interesting twist. This is a very different film, and I appreciated a lot about it. My hot take is ultimately I think it's a rental. It has a slow buildup, but it has some interesting themes and a classic horror feel. And I did like the ending, but it's weighed down by some less than stellar effects and some issues with the story. So overall, I think it's a rental. It's an interesting film, and it is a different take on the holidays. If you're interested in some sort of horrible horror holiday, then this is perfect for you. So things I liked about this movie. The first is the slow buildup. And I know I said that I didn't love that, but it was an interesting aspect because you do have, you have an advent calendar. You've got 24 distinct things that have to happen. And so ultimately, she opens all 24. She has to eat some candy, which sounds good, except every time she eats the candy, something terrible happens. If she doesn't eat the candy, that terrible thing will happen to her. So it's kind of this horrible choice that she has to make. At the start, she's a little bit more trepidatious, but then as it goes on, she kind of learns the rules of the game, and then she becomes a little bit more of a willing participant. So the second thing I loved is the main actor, and I'm going to butcher this. I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I think it's Eugénie Derouand. And I thought she did a really great job. Like, her character has a lot of very mixed emotions that she confronts. What you learn is as she goes through the advent calendars, I think one of them gives her a wish, or like grants her kind of what she's hoping for. And she has been a paraplegic for years. She used to be a dancer, but then there was an accident that crippled her, and so she has been a paraplegic since then. But what this chocolate does is it gives her back the ability to move. Like, it gives her legs back, so she can get out of her chair. She can kind of redo the thing that she loved, which was dance. But there is a pretty horrible price that comes with that ability. And so I thought that she did a really good job kind of balancing those conflicting feelings, because at first she's horrified of what this, not this calendar, but the calendar in the film is doing. But I think as she kind of begins to understand the rules and kind of gets to see some of the benefits along with some of the terrible things, she's a little conflicted. And I did like that aspect as well. I liked her character kind of going through these mixed emotions when she gets her legs back, but then realizes like the horrible cost that comes with that. And the last thing I really loved is the ending. I mean, I kind of thought that this ending was going to become a little bit predictable. What you find out is the rules of the game are you have to eat the chocolate, and you have to kind of do what the chocolate is forcing you to do. Like, once you eat the chocolate, something terrible will happen, you have to do something horrible. But what Eva learns throughout this ordeal is at the end, if she eats this final chocolate, kind of everything goes back, everything reverts. It jumps back to the start of December, except there's no horrible death advent calendar. So she kind of goes through this progression as with the understanding that everything will be reset. So she does some really terrible things. Like, she essentially murders her stepmother, because she doesn't like her. And then also she doesn't think it's going to matter. Like, she thinks that it will ultimately go back. So it's kind of her just releasing steam. But then what you find out at the very end is the rules of the game are you have to follow the rules until the last day, until the last opening, and you have to eat all the chocolates until the last one. So essentially, at the very last, at the 24, wherever that is in this, when you get that one, the game is over. So you could choose to eat the chocolate and kind of go back in time and reset everything, or you could not eat it and you'd have whatever your desire was, but you would have this kind of trail of horrible things that you had to do to get there. And I thought that was an intense choice. I liked how it was presented. And also the film doesn't let you know what she does. It keeps that mysterious, which I really liked because I wasn't sure. I actually wasn't sure what she was going to do. My gut was telling me that she was probably going to eat the candy because there were some terrible things, and she ultimately seemed like, a caring character. But I don't know. I mean, it's a really terrible choice. It's a really tough choice, and having her legs back did really transform her. So I don't know what she chose, and the movie doesn't tell you, which I did really like. The things that I didn't love, the main one is the main villain. The main villain is this kind of like, I guess it's supposed to be a demon or a monster. It looks kind of like a shirtless guy with like, it's got these like plates on his face. Um, and the movie, whenever it comes up, has this kind of like neon lighting. It was strange to me. It looked like one of the Borderland characters, like one of the enemies in Borderlands, which I didn't love. Like the monster didn't seem scary. When it came up, it was in this like weird kind of like neon lighted situation. It never really struck fear in my heart. And it also kind of like the presentation seemed like a very different movie. Like this movie feels very grounded, even though it's going through the supernatural aspect. I mean, the advent calendar itself is kind of an older mechanical style looking advent calendar. There aren't a ton of effects in this film. And then when you see the demon or the monster, it does look like it's out of a very different type of film. So the second thing I didn't love is there's a scene partway through where Eva gets sexually assaulted, and I think it's an interesting scene because it kind of then gives her the impetus to use what to like fully utilize one of the advent calendar kind of curses on that person. But it seemed to kind of come out of nowhere. I mean, this person was kind of projected as a jerk, but then I don't know, he didn't really show a ton of interest in her. I guess he was just kind of an opportunistic predator, and maybe that's how it would be. But I don't know, it seemed to kind of come out of nowhere. And then also his reaction seemed very off. Like the whole situation just didn't gel with kind of what I felt like the movie was going for. And it almost, I don't know, it wasn't supposed to be comedic, but it kind of was comedic in his reaction and kind of the weird way that he did react to it. I don't know, it felt off, it felt weird, and it kind of threw me off early on because that's an earlier scene. And the last thing I did not love is, I guess, and this is minor, like this is kind of more of a comedic point. Like her friend gets her this horrible cursed advent calendar. Like it looks like something that has a curse. It's like old, it has this like weird writing on it. It has this like mechanical device at the start that kind of like pops up, and it doesn't look like, it looks like a cursed object. I would like to know what kind of friend would get that. I think she got it as a kind of a joke. It's kind of the impression that you get at the start. But again, it looks like the type of item that will probably murder you and your entire family. So the whole premise just seemed a little off. But overall, I think that this is ultimately an interesting film. There were some things I didn't love about it. So ultimately, I think it's a rental, but it is an interesting one. And hey, look, it's the holidays. If you've got a horror itch for the holidays, this is a perfect way to do it. Like this is ultimately, I think it's an interesting watch. And so that is the Advent Calendar. It's streaming now on Shudder, so you can check it out then. You can see it from the comfort of your own home. And again, I think it's an interesting holiday horror film. So thanks so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.